Hello and welcome once again to Gaming Under the Influence. I'm Mike here with Alex, coming to you from GreenDragonCVR in Woodbridge to talk about video games. How are you, bud?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm not so bad. Honestly enjoying Final Fantasy XVI more, which I guess...
we turned around a little bit. A little bit,
yeah.
Yeah.
I know you finished it, and I played a lot more, and I'm not nearly as disappointed as I was last time we talked about it.
Yeah, you were really, upset about some shit last time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, fucking last time we were talking about how I thought the whole fucking game is just reducible to this, superficial, fucking allegory for contemporary political concerns like oppression and climate change and this and that, right? But I mean, that layer, which does play a role in motivating the events of the plot in a cheap way, I'm sure anybody playing the game would agree. It's totally not what the whole thing is reducible to.
Not,
no. In fact, the background, meaning the world building as such, which you're exposed to more over the course of the game.
Exactly, yeah.
You really see how it kind of makes that whole plot line with the bearers, their liberation seem kind of incoherent, right?
Yeah.
I think there's
Still
going to be some spoilers now. Obviously, we'll talk about the ending.
Spoilers,
which you've seen directly, and I've just fucking seen.
Glossed
and I
over,
fucking spent the whole time reading the what's it called? Hippocrates are there fucking the journal entries
yes,
which are reproduced online in full, because I really wanted to understand what the fuck is going on with this world here. It's the idea really that people are bad and this guy is going to extinguish fucking all of the magic in the world, because magic and humans and all of this stuff is intrinsically evil, and the world would be a better place without it. It's weird, just superficial, I don't even want to start using pejorative terms to describe it, but to me this is just the rudest, most superficial form of contemporary activism. And if that's what the whole plot was, it would be very uninteresting.
Yeah, unfortunately, in today's day and age, you directly look at that as what's going on in our world, and it just kind of puts you off.
It's false activism for people who don't actually want change in the world. But I think here the real motivating factor is the existence of Ultima, this fucking a space alien. He's this. There's this concept of the demiurge in fucking ancient philosophy of this lord of the world, not God the creator. He's the thing that runs the world and wants to keep people locked inside of it and separated from their true destinies.
Right,
to eat them all, essentially, at the end, to cannibalize them and prevent them from achieving their divine purpose and shit. So Clive is fucking fighting Ultima, who's supposed to be this alien that came to Valisthea to fucking absorb its ether and create a better a new paradise for himself.
A new world,
yeah. And it turns out Ultima created humankind with the intention of producing a vessel for him to one day possess and recreate the universe with. And he needed to do this because his own world, he destroyed it using magic. Magic kind of saps the world of ether, its life,
Right.
And he destroyed his own world using magic, and he came to a new one that's rich in ether because he needed it to gather needed it to build the vessel with sufficient power to kind of recreate the world that wouldn't be destroyed by the blight, or
which ends up being Clive.
Yeah, and it turns out that's what Clive is, right? Clive is the fucking result of a millennia-long process started by Ultima. And I think people evolved from bearers are the least sophisticated or advanced form of this evolution. They have some ether inside them, but not the dominance, and
not exactly,
and not
dominance.
Clive, who can ultimately contain all of it. That's the idea, right? The icons are
absorb them, basically contain all the icons' power, right? Within him. Yeah, that's what makes him special over everybody else. And
the icons are just their bodies are either just beings of ether, essentially. I don't think it's really correct to say Ultima made them, because they're fucking kind of forces of nature. But the fact that they're what they are, they can exist in this embodied form, is because
they imbue themselves somehow in
that's because Ultima made people, right? So indirectly, Ultima is responsible for their power in the world and shit. But they're more forces of nature that he needs to absorb to have the power to recreate the world.
Recreate the world, yeah.
That's why you see in those murals the fucking form of Ultima there with those weird wings and shit. And
yes. Because he absorbs all the icons and becomes the Ifrit with the Phoenix fusion, whatever.
And you see in the interdimensional rift his old body that he discarded. Yeah. His race or whatever. I think they're a collective being, but they discarded these forms to turn into crystals to sap Valisthea of the ether, right? And in the in-game journal there or whatever, it says that their original form, their discarded bodies, they were incomplete. They lacked what the combined form of Clive and Joshua, like the Phoenix and the Ifrit there had, right? Like this is what Ultima was trying to build by going to Valdestea in the first place.
Yeah.
So it seems like he needed to absorb like whatever fucking was there that these icons kind of embody, and it would make him a complete being capable of recreating the world, right? Yeah. But it turns out that Clive is that being, and he doesn't want to do that. He decides his own purpose.
Yeah, I think we maybe didn't realize how early on we were in the game. There's still a lot to sort of unravel and uncover, and like what you said, Clive essentially. It's funny actually. Like we're in heavy spoiler territory anyway, but I guess a lot of it ends up being just the human element of not only Clive being able to obviously absorb the icons and becoming all powerful, but also that he got there with the help of everybody and like just that human like will. There's like an extra ingredient that I think they kind of allude to that ends up enabling him to fucking destroy Ultima, which is like
I think I
thought it was pretty cool. Like
Ultima's incomplete. He doesn't have what Clive does, which is like his fucking brother. You know, there's more than one person there, right?
Yeah.
Even though Ultima calls himself we, he's like a fucking lonely being, and he's
he absorbed other clones of him and became stronger and more powerful and whatever.
But he's still not what Clive is, right? Like
no, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Yeah. It's cool the way that all that worked out, and
Clive is like, it's not that Clive is trying to. Like I had this impression that it was like this superficial idea that like Clive is like trying to fight against like fucking the natural order which Ultima represents, and the world is essentially just an evil place.
Well, they kind of lead you on to that because they show when Sid dies, they show Ultima just trying to like push along what he calls like I guess fate or whatever, just keeping him, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Why are you like Clive seemed like a teenager just being like, nah, I don't want to do it, you know, like it all kind of didn't make sense. And then there was also the whole thing with the bearers was like a soft plot point that like their whole mission was to basically
that's like
save the bear, like free the people. Like it was kind of weird and hippie-ish, right? But then obviously like the plot advances further into
you realize
saving the fucking world.
It's not really
which like we should have obviously expected from a Final Fantasy game, but like it's weird but
the problem is it kind of seems to conflict with these two parts seem to conflict, which we can talk about in a fucking moment, I guess. But it does it does seem like we jumped the gun on assuming that's the total meaning in this game, and I don't think it really is. I like this like background world building. It's pretty cool, man. Draws on a bunch of different ideas from like previous Final Fantasy games and like religion and mythology, and builds a cool idea. I like that whole thing that Clive is like a complete version of what Ultima is, you know?
Pretty much,
Ultima's like this false like fucking, he's like a pretender to being ultimate, right? Like he's not really God. He's like
Clive essentially becomes
more close to it anyways. And he even talks to Clive too a bunch about how his goal is to fucking restore like balance to the world, and he says to Ultima at the end, fucking, you know, it was never about recreating anything, you just wanted to preserve yourself, right? So he doesn't really envisage himself as like a, you know, as like a, somehow like a nihilist, I guess, right? He's out to save the world, right? It's an important distinction, you know? It would seem like this like anti-human meaning built into the superficial aspect of like, we're bad for the environment. Stuff, right? Like that to me would just devalue the whole fucking anything.
I'm happy the way it turned out.
And I think too, it's interesting because, you know, the stuff we're just talking about with Ultima and like, you know, we have a society then, like human beings essentially exist to just evolve and to possess more complicated and advanced magical abilities. Why does society, like, in line with this, you know, other than the crystalline orthodoxy there, they fucking worship the dominants, but they hate the bearers? Why?
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I mean, it would be obvious to say like they are useful because they are magical, but then how do you literally enslave them? Like, why don't they
practically it doesn't make sense.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't actually make sense. And unless we're missing something like lore wise, it also just doesn't make sense in the lore. Like,
I don't know. Like,
I don't know. Maybe we missed something.
Before,
but
right? Like, shouldn't it be like there's some superstition that we're aware of that they, I don't know, like they cause leprosy, like they're bad for people in some way, so everybody hates them. Right? Like, you know, like Hitler told everybody the Jews ran the banks, let's say, right? Like, well, what about the bearers? What do they do?
What have they done?
Why is everybody?
What's the rumor?
Why is everybody so brutally like fucking committed to hating them?
They're
right?
literally
like,
slaves. Like,
they just hate them so much. It doesn't make
weird.
Sense. One lady's like, I found out my kid was a bearer. I left him in the woods. Like, why?
It's like, what
the fuck? Why? It doesn't make sense. You use magic. You have to use a crystal, so that kid's better than you, and you hate it. And you
I don't know. It's
understand-
fucking.
just-
It's weird.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. It's that whole plot line I think is totally irritating to me.
That's why I feel like
I hate that
we
plot line.
maybe missed something. Like we had to have. It doesn't make sense, but
Yeah.
maybe it just does make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I think it's just a stupid thing that they put in there to appeal to like sensibilities of the modern audience.
Maybe
Yeah.
to give you that like what's it called?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oppressive kind of.
It's like an activism vibe to it.
Yeah. Fair enough.
As
Yeah,
though
because
it's-
like I said, the first half of the game, I thought it was like
Yeah.
the whole plot was gonna, we're just like trying to free these bears. Like, where's this going? Are we just fucking
Yeah.
the happy hippie running around freeing people? And then they got pissed that you, in the second half of the game, the bears were pissed that you intervened on that shit. They were like, no, we're fine. Like, leave us the fuck alone. I don't know.
I just don't understand why.
It's very weird. Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, a lot of it too was like bloated to the point where I think they could have just cut some of the, shortened, tightened it up a bit. Or, like I was saying, there were some side quests that we played that I feel like would have been integral to the main quest. They could have put that in, taken out some of the other bullshit. I just feel like when you look at it from the bigger picture, like there was just some things that needed to be shifted around that would have made it
I feel
a
you.
better narrative. But I mean,
you
whatever.
on
Maybe it's like nitpicking, but that's just.
I don't really like the bear
Right.
fucking narrative very much.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes sense in its own terms, and it definitely conflicts with the broader logic of the game.
Yeah,
But,
especially how like the icons, they're so powerful. Like we worship them, and then like
Yeah.
these people have like basic fire or
Yeah.
basic magic, just still more useful than no magic.
Yeah.
And they're like just
Fuck
shunned.
you.
Like what? It's fucking weird, man.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's very bizarre.
I don't know.
And the Dalmekian Republic there, they have like Kupka, they're like, yeah, the guy who manifests Titan, he gets like to be like the permanent advisor to the government. He's like
Yeah.
this powerful guy, he gets all the bitches he wants.
Yeah, he's a
But then
fucking-
you can do, you can what?
Yeah.
You can do magic? You're evil. Fuck you, right?
fucked.
Like, doesn't make sense, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, they missed the part where they like invented some like fake reason why everybody hates them, but nonetheless it's a reason.
Yeah.
If they use their magic and other people turn to stone, it would make sense that everybody hates them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just bizarre. And like they go so far with that angle. I did a quest where like this little girl, like her dad gives her a bearer who's turning to stone and tells her she's not even human. She doesn't have a mom or a dad, and the girl's just like playing with this corpse essentially.
Oh my god.
You know what I mean? And the dad's like, yeah, that's fine. He's not horrified by this or the possibility of disease even. He's just like, yeah, this is fine. It's like the lengths they go to just exaggerate
Like
this.
normalize it kind of
Yeah,
like
to just
weird.
tell you these guys are treated bad. Like,
Yeah,
we know.
yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't make sense, right? Like,
If you're a bear, you're in
You know?
shit out of luck.
yeah.
Fuck.
It doesn't make sense. Or is there a reason to suspect their inferiority? Like, isn't that what usually racism and oppression is based on? Like, the
Yeah.
party that's oppressing, like, has this myth of the inferiority of the other, but these guys
Yeah.
are clearly better than you. Like, in all
Yeah, they
terms.
are. That's the bizarre thing.
You know what I
right?
mean?
They're-
Like,
yeah.
it's like,
I can do magic and you need this crystal to do
Yeah.
it. Fuck you.
yeah.
I don't get
Should
it.
be the other way around, that the muggles, like, were
Yeah,
fucking
right? Like a
muggles,
Harry
yeah.
Potter shit, right?
Yeah.
Muggles.
Like Voldemort style.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Voldemort be like, this is all backwards.
Yeah. Well, you guys got it wrong. Damn it.
You're bad magical supremacists. Like, maybe it's not good for the muggles to be slaves of the magic guys, or at least you can understand why they think they should be, right? Like,
Yeah.
they're like, guy,
It's a
you
little
know, I
more
can
coherent
fucking
here,
move
yeah.
shit with my mind. What do you do?
Light you
know?
on fire in a second. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Here
don't
it's
know.
like, and I just don't understand. Like, and especially the most perplexing thing is the game begins, or semi-begins, with Clive in a fucking special forces unit of like Imperial soldiers who are bearers.
Yeah, they're all bears. Yeah.
And they're like badass. They're so badass that they're sending 4 of them to murder a dominant. you
Yeah,
know?
that's the other thing. Like, is there just like, do they like rank the bears? Like, is it just like Clive was an exceptional soldier, so he can be a soldier bear?
No,
but
their
like
unit was
other
bearers.
ones,
Their unit was bearers.
yeah, that's what I'm saying though. Like, because some bears are just slaves,
Oh,
right?
I
But, like,
don't know.
I don't know. He was just a good soldier, so they threw him in
I think
there.
they're
Like, you're a
slave
bunch of
soldiers,
fucking.
but-
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, just because they're exceptional at combat, but then they're slaves that are bear.
Yeah.
Like, there's obviously a range of things
Yeah.
these people can do, right?
Yeah.
Because there was other bearer soldiers too. So it's just weird. I don't fucking know. I don't know. And then
know
are
either.
all the icons considered bearers because they can do magic? No, right? Because Jill doesn't
I don't
have the
think so.
mark on her face.
No, they're not considered bearers.
So they're not just by default bearers because they can.
No, they can do magic, but they're not bearers. You know what I mean?
It gets fuzzy. Yeah, it's weird.
It wasn't that well. Fuck.
Yeah.
Those are more social categories. I don't think they really designate anything
Yeah, true.
solid in the world. That's why, like, I really would have liked, I don't know, some more, like, insight into this, like, you know, how all these parts relate to one another and stuff, and, like, the meaning in the world's terms behind why like, people feel the way they do. But ultimately, like, what really made it all make sense to me was, like, these fucking entries in the journal about, like, Ultima's original form as the Ifrit without the wings, and, like, he's anticipating Clive and the fucking complete Phoenix thing, and the whole fucking time he was wrong because Joshua and Clive did it together, and Ultima's trying to, despite calling himself we, he's fucking he's only alone, singular false god, right? Like,
right.
Yeah. And we saw that thing on Reddit where this guy makes a comparison to Annabelle and the way she treats her children, and Ultima the way he treats his
yes, yeah, that kind of blew my mind when I read about that. Because like when you see the ending scenes and you hear the way he references the, you know, humans that he created and stuff like that, you get literally just that same vibe spoken out of his mouth, like just
they're literally
a piece of shit. It's crazy.
The same thing, bro. Remember when she goes to visit Kuka and she's sitting there with her son and she's like, and you're gonna become the emperor and you're gonna fucking create a new world based on this new vision, which is obviously her vision.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
the kid's fucking
God, you're right.
duck, right?
Jesus, you know? She literally is like
Ultima.
She's Ultima. Yeah.
Yeah. The game is about that like irresponsible, tyrannical authority, I guess, right? Yeah.
That's fucking cool, man.
Yeah. And it's also weird how like Clive is like, you know, he's a mishmash of all these tropes, but at the end he's literally called Logos. Like that's the fucking name for Jesus in the
Bible, is that what that is? I was gonna ask you what Logos is or whatever.
It's like what John calls Christ in the Gospel of John, and like right at the beginning, you know, the word, right? Like
okay.
And he's also 33 years old, like Jesus was when he goes in. Yeah. I'm sure that all this is intentional, right?
I was gonna say, there's no way that's not. There's no way it's not.
Of course it is. He sacrificed
even
himself.
in Final Fantasy 15, like Noctis is mostly like a young. Yeah, he's younger.
Much Jesus
but then they do a time skip anyway, and he's older at the end of the game. I don't remember what the time skip was. I bet they put him in that same fucking age range.
He's way more unambiguously supposed to be a Jesus figure. Clive is like, they use the name, but he's got all these other allusions to other ideas too. Like, not so much a. You know, he's still a person, right? He's not like literally not just like God. Like he's fucking, you know.
So cool, man.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad that like I guess our initial
we worked out all this stuff.
Ended up we ended up working out to enjoy most of it because
I needed to see all that stuff, the entries and the fucking. To me, like it sounds funny, man, but I don't know if I could play through the whole game like fucking not knowing its point, right? Like
I see what you're saying, whereas most people don't want to hear spoilers and don't want to know what's happening. I was trying to avoid some of it, but I get what you're saying because you want to know if it's worth kind of pushing through it, right?
The saying, right?
Yeah.
Like, but I like this whole thing with Ultima and the recreation of the world and fucking the ether being like, you know, it is almost, it's not that far from Final Fantasy VII, right? Like
I was gonna say it's not like entirely new. Like we've seen this before for the most part.
Where Genova and Sephiroth are like
it's
these
more
alien.
Literal in this game because they called they called it Ultima, like the fucking, you know, like
who's just a summon in their games or something, right?
Yeah.
Sephiroth and Genova, they want to eat the fucking life force of the planet, and he wants to eat the ether, which is called literally the life force of the planet.
Shit.
And you find that sword that people even talk about worshiping Gaia in Valisthea, like around one of the other continents and stuff. So yeah. I do like how they tie it all together in the end. But yeah, the one thing I could do without, man, really in this fucking game is the bear storyline. So stupid.
I agree.
Or at least make it make sense. Fine, people treat them badly, but why?
But why?
It's irrational. I hate you for no reason, right? Like, no, there's always a bad reason, but it's a reason, right? Like a social myth, a misrepresentation at the root of those kinds of things, right? That's how they work. Otherwise, it wouldn't be, you know, it wouldn't be a thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Otherwise, though, fuck, I'm happy with it, man. Yeah,
for the most part. Like, I mean, I finished it now, and I enjoyed it. Despite, if anything, my complaints now went from us bitching about like the world building and stuff before to just kind of some padding in the second half and a little bit of slogginess. Even like, my most petty complaint is like. In a lot of scenes, you know, you'll see like a cutscene, then it'll jump to like gameplay, and you'll just see all the enemies, and they just kind of like, they're just like there in the same pose, and you're just like, you kind of lose some of the believability. You're like, I hate this. Like, it's not a major fucking complaint. It's just that's me being like really nitpicky.
Yeah, I feel like the map feels like an MMO map where shit's just plopped there. And
definitely feels like an MMO map, and it's. I mean, I don't. care for linearity or to complain about it, but sometimes you lose a little bit of the illusion of being in a world because it's very like hallway, like just like shrubs on the side. You're kind of like,
you know, it was nice fucking in Forspoken that fucking all the enemies, like people talked about how it was a dead world. It was literally an apocalyptic dead world, but all the enemies had like life cycles and behavior. Like the zombie hordes would move across the map and shit, and like the animals would attack each other.
Didn't even notice that, or at least I don't remember now.
Dude, they moved. You always bump into massive zombie hordes and shit in the map of fucking Forspoken. You know, just doing stuff.
Yeah,
it's like this game. The enemies are just standing there, just fucking kind of.
Yeah, they almost like spawn in. You're just like, oh, come on, like could have done this a little better.
You just run by them, you know.
And they're literally in like a row.
Yeah.
It's just like, parts like that, just kind of like,
The boss fights are cool and a little bit challenging, but
cool,
by and large, I just avoid combat because it's so easy.
Yeah, that's true.
And you get nothing from it.
Yeah, and even like leveling up and stuff like that doesn't really feel like it gives you much of an edge. Like it feels like they could have almost just thrown that whole like RPG stuff aside. But still, all in all, like the actual combat system is fucking exceptional. Yeah,
I do love it. Yeah,
it's cool and very customizable with all the icons. Like I couldn't even believe that you get powers from all fucking 8 of them. Like that's a lot to choose from, man. You can have like totally different. Like there's tons that I haven't even fucking tried, man. Like what?
And it's cool how the R2 or whatever, that fucking ability that pretty much does something, like one pulls a guy, one zips you towards a guy.
Oh, the L2 ability. Yeah, how those are all unique abilities that
pretty
you
much
don't even
drastically change combat.
Yeah.
The lightning one is seemingly a bummer. Like you just put those orbs on a guy and
and then you shoot it off. I mean, you can also upgrade them. Also, no doubt they get better, but the best one for sure is the fire one where you zip over the guy, or the wind, I guess Guru does, where you pull. But that one is not great either because you can't pull all the enemies towards you. So fire's still better. And then, like you said, the lightning one was bummer, and then some of the other ones kind of bummer too. Even like Bahamut's, because you have to charge up. Bahamut's, like you activate it and then you're just like, you kind of have to evade attacks. If you do a perfect dodge, it gives you one charge where you can launch what's it called, like the mega beam or whatever, where it just shoots fucking all kinds of. It's a good attack, but you have to either wait to build it up or like dodge attacks and then activate. It's kind of like unintuitive. It's kind of like
yeah. Cool though.
I didn't use it often, but
not unlike Astral Chain or some other fucking game like this, right?
But yeah, at the end of the day, there's so many abilities and 8 full Titans that you can, pretty much equip and select between during combat. You select between 3 that you have equipped, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting for sure, and it's in terms of their like real time combat, it's probably the best they've ever done, like real time action combat, right?
I think so.
Like I was playing 15 the other day, and I still like it, but it's not quite as sharp.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It's you can tell there's a huge difference.
Good,
yeah,
for sure.
It's fucking weird. And then even 7 Remake, which I like that style of real time action, but it's real time with turn-based elements. We've talked about this extensively. If you played it, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. You can still pause to use items and shit like that, whereas in this one, they went full-on DMC.
Yeah.
So, it did work out in that sense. The gameplay is great.
I think so.
They could use a little bit more, maybe like types of enemies.
Maybe, yeah.
Like
a lot of stuff feels the same.
Yeah, there's like just mobs, and then
you
get like mini bosses. That's it. Like,
thank you guys very much for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.
Oh yeah.